everybody. I'm Meg Shar. I'm the Assistant Director of the Library. Thank you all for joining us. We got such a beautiful day and we're so excited to do this walk with Shamu. And Tony just had a great suggestion that maybe we could just introduce ourselves because I know there are a lot of people and I don't know half the people here either. So I'm Meg.
I'm Tony, live in Falls Village.
I'm Shamu, you'll hear more about me.
I'm Rebecca, I live in Falls Village.
I live in Lakeville. I'm Debbie.
I'm Celie. I live over the bridge in Amesville section, Salisbury.
Barbara, I'm from Armenia. We've been weekenders for 36 years, and we've had the privilege of living here for a whole year.
It's nice.
Yes.
I'm Albie, live in Falls Village.
Marcia, live in Falls Village with Albie.
Joan Robinson, Falls Village.
I'm Bill Henry, live in Pine Plains.
I'm Connie. I live in Armenia.
I'm Lorna. I live in Lakeville.
I'm Jeff, live in Cornwall.
And I'm Jen, and I live with Jen.
I'm Amanda. I live in Amesville over the river where Celie lives.
I'm Gary, and I live in Great Barrington, Mass.
And I'm Jeanette from Great Barrington.
We're partners.
And I'm John from Harwinton.
Great, thanks. All you, Shamu.
Okay, well, welcome. We're so glad to have you all here. Again, my name is Shamu Fenveshi Sadeh. I run farm and forest environmental education programs here at Isabella Freedman. Just to say, we are standing on what was traditionally Mohican land, right? They stewarded this land for thousands, tens of thousands of years, and we're very honored and privileged to now steward it as farmers and keepers of the forest here, and that comes with responsibilities. And one of the ways that I take that responsibility is to teach fundamentally about interconnectedness. So yes, on this walk, I hope we will see some wildflowers, we'll see trees blooming, maybe you'll remember some names, maybe you'll see some new things. But much more important to me is that you understand and get a sense of the way you are connected to these forests. And then that in turn informs some change in your life, either around what you drive, how you vote, what you eat, who you vote for, choices we make in our lives that will determine, that have determined and are determining the present and the future of this forest. Mostly what we're trying to do is open our eyes to notice what's happening around us. That's the goal. Perceptual shift, like, whoa, I see things I haven't seen before, right? To get into, to feel connected to this land. Does that make sense? And that means that I don't have, this isn't a lecture. This is an experience based on what all of us see, what all of us notice out there. In miles, I don't know, maybe it's a mile?
All the way around? Yeah, less.
Less, three-quarters of a mile. Yeah. We're not trying to get somewhere far, but Megan said we have to have 75% of this group back here. We're raising the numbers. Every year the library raises the expectations. Now it's 75. Just for now, just take a look around. Take a look around. See where we are. So many things to see that we haven't seen before. So true, different angles, different perspectives. Thank you. Yes, what else? There's a big gulch there, yes. So just noticing landform. Wonderful. We can't see it. We have to step back to be able to see it. What's happening? What are we looking at?
It looks to me like the land we're standing on was put here by men. That this was a waterway that came down and went down that way, and then somebody took a caterpillar and...
Yeah, very observant. Yes, this is the dam for this lake. Built long before my time. That big ditch there, where you see the logs, and that kind of chunk taken out of the forest, that's all that soil was put here, and yes, and it flows out now underneath this dam down that way towards the mighty Hollenbeck River. What's happening? What are we seeing?
Budding.
Yeah, we're seeing these trees, but in fact, let's look at one from a little closer. Even just these trees back here. What's on those trees? And I promise, we are going to start walking in a minute, but you can't actually see this very easily in the forest.
Inflorescences, the beginning, like flowers, as it were. But
Yeah,
not flowers.
these are tree flowers. Whoever thinks about sugar maple flowers, people think about the leaves, maybe they think about the sap, but right now is peak flowering for a number of trees, including the mighty sugar maple, right? A lot of us citizens of Maple Nation, as we're known up here, because that's one of the primary trees. So they're these green hanging lanterns. I also see, if you see this white bark tree leaning out,
Yeah.
there you can also see very long, they're called catkins. They look like caterpillars hanging down. Also flowers, right? So many of these trees are in bloom, and that's what we're seeing. Maybe we're starting to see the beginning of leaves too, but I don't think so. For the most part, I think we're just seeing the colors, the tree flowers, color change. If you go through Robbins Swamp, the great swamp north of here, we drive through it on Route 7, you can still see a lot of red flowers, and red color spreading across. Beautiful little flowers here. Check out these flowers, and then I'll ask you to, for those of you who are comfortable, sorry there's a little bit of post-industrial junk here, but to feel this tree, a very, very interesting tree, and it's in full flower right now. Teeny little flowers. Each one of these is holding dozens of flowers, and at the same time the leaves are just starting to poke out. And of course the leaves at this age are a different color than they will be in a few weeks. At least this organization since the 50s, and I don't know what it was before. So I just want to, what's special about this time of year in the woods? When Meg and I were talking about when we should do a little ecology walk, we wanted to have it at about this time because if you look up, the canopy is still open, meaning the roof of leaves hasn't closed above us, which means look at the sun hitting the ground, right? What happens if I've been taking people out into the woods for the last 30-some years, and if someone says, "What is it?" and I say the name, what happens most of the time? They forget, and that's the end of the conversation. There are a few people who will be like, who want more information, want an experience, but part of the idea behind not telling people the name is drawing them into a deeper relationship and having them have an experience, so it actually goes in there. Yes, what else? Does that flower remind you of anything from the garden? It's in the same family as so many other things.
The lily?
It is a lily, yeah. They're perennials, but they go through their whole flowering cycle, fruiting, seeding cycle in this short time before the canopy closes. Because once the canopy closes, they're there for the rest of the season, but they're not doing a whole lot because they're not getting a lot of energy, right? They're not getting a lot of sun.
So it's pointing down. Does that mean its insect needs to go down and under?
Oh, in terms of the pollinator? Yes, it means it's probably pollinated by something that's crawling rather than flying.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a great observation. Did everyone understand? I'm sorry, I don't remember. Anyone?
Tony.
Just to be fair. Tell me?
Tony.
Tony's observation, the flowers pointing down and what that might mean about who pollinates it, right? Probably something that's crawling across the ground rather than something that's flying by. That's going to be hard to see. Ants. A lot of ants do pollination. Beetles, crawling beetles.
Do they have to crawl up?
Yes, they'd have to crawl up to get there, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, they work hard. That's great. We get to see trout lilies. Oh, the tree. Yeah, what'd you think?
Very dense.
Very dense. That's our densest wood right there. Densest wood that we have.
What is it?
That is, that's an ironwood. Heavy, heavy,
At the retreat
dense.
center, or we in the United States?
What?
Oh, in this region. Thanks for asking. Where is it the densest tree? Yes, in this region. Yep. New England, maybe I'd say, yeah. Very, very hard. It was used a lot by the indigenous population and early settlers to make handles and tool handles, and it's it's like almost as heavy pound per pound as iron. Thus the name ironwood. And
A few years ago,
so,
and where I moved.
if you'll notice,
Oh yeah, the bloom.
what do you notice about these ferns? They're spread all across this
Christmas
slope.
because they stay green all year.
Yes. This is an evergreen fern. And also has a very particular shape, a little point at the end. And this is our only evergreen fern that has this shape, this form. Come up.
Wait.
Come on.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Anyone want to see a pretty magnificent metallic golden beetle?
Golden beetle.
I don't know what kind of beetle it is. This is one of the largest insect families in the world.
Is that like a dung beetle?
I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but it's pretty impressive looking. Look at that.
Looks like a scarab, or a scarab.
How are we connected to these beetles? Why are they super important?
Well, they
He's crawling
eat
now.
everything.
They eat everything,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
They're decomposers,
Yeah.
right? They're recyclers of
Yeah.
all this organic matter on the ground. Super important. They're really important pollinators too, for lots of plants, right? This is not a garden pest beetle. This is a wild native beetle doing its important work.
Chicks have any important work?
That's a great question. I'm sure they do. Probably
They feed
humbling the humans. Making sure we don't think we're too important.
They feed the possums.
They do feed the possums and lots of birds. Oh, nice.
Oh, look at that one. Oh, look at that.
You have to look very closely at it to see the intricate fringes around the white. That is called fringe cup. This whole mountain is called Barrack Mountain on the local maps.
Oh, I see.
Don't know why.
And what's this tree?
What is this tree and what is that little piece of something that I passed out?
Nut. Not a walnut.
Or hickory nut.
Yeah, this is a hickory tree.
You can tell by the way the
Beautiful.
bark
You see the
flakes
bark?
out.
Look up. Shag bark. Shag bark hickory. Very important local nut tree. Nut trees used to be hugely important here. If you walked in this forest a few hundred years ago, there would have been chestnut trees. Supposedly every third to fifth tree, huge chestnut trees. Nuts, very tasty and edible, raw by us, the bears, turkeys, deer, everyone. That's one of the reasons that we're planting Asian American hybrid chestnuts up on BB Hill, both as in honor and remembrance of the native chestnut and also so we can produce food with trees. That chestnut orchard on BB Hill will basically, imagine it replacing a wheat field. And imagine the benefits it has for the climate in terms of carbon sequestration versus a wheat field. That's the shift we're trying to make in agriculture towards perennial, regenerative, carbon positive agriculture. And what does it have to do with this hickory tree? It's a close relative. And hickory nuts are really, if you have the patience to get the meat out of them,
hard to shell.
hard to shell.
And they fly all over the kitchen with sharp points, and then you walk on them all summer long.
That sounds like you've had a bad experience with these.
Many experiences.
Yeah. Have you tried covering them with a rag and then breaking them like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's other folks who are working on, another thing people are working on with these hickory nuts, because we have millions of pounds of hickories falling on. We have multiple species, not just the shagbark. We have pig nut, we have several species of hickory nuts. There's a lot of this food falling all over, far more than the squirrels and small mammals and the turkeys eat, is pressing them for oil with the shell and all.
Oh.
So that's an interesting thing. You'll start to see agricultural products and oils made out of our local hickory nut oil.
So how cool will your hybrid American Chinese chestnuts grow?
How tall?
Yeah.
30, 40 feet, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe a little taller. Light green flowers. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And you can maybe then look at the trees and start to get used to identifying the bark. Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. The filmmaker here is pointing something out. What's going on here?
There?
Over here too.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Woodpeckers?
Woodpeckers. Why are they pecking in these trees?
The trees are...
There are bugs in them. Isn't that amazing? What does that mean about a woodpecker that isn't true for a lot of other bird species? Or that is more true for a woodpecker? That a woodpecker could brag about if a woodpecker would brag.
They don't get headaches.
Taste for decay. Hearing.
They have extremely good sense of hearing. Meaning they're out here, they've never, they're hearing the sounds of the bugs in the tree, right? I mean, that's
Cool.
right? I don't hear anything.
Pretty cool.
Watch him. I'm just gonna watch. There's
Oh yes, here we go. Thank you for noticing. Look at that. And this is called the wood anemone.
Oh, yes.
And again, it's one of the most common half-dozen spring ephemerals. You won't notice this in a month.
Yeah.
You'll barely see it. So this is really the chance to see it. And you get a sense of the preciousness of these things, these tiny, tiny flowers that give you a sense of what we don't see that's out there, right? There's all this life. We haven't even talked about the way these trees are communicating both underground through the mycorrhizal fungal networks and above ground through aerosols they release in the air.
Don't
So
say that
for
word.
Aerosols. tree aerosols.
And put it.
Hypsisawa. 90% that's what that is. It's related, it's an ericaceae. It's related to all the mountain laurel and the huckleberry and all those kind of tough leaves. It's quite
strange
quite
to see one,
Yes, it is. I'm sure there's more of them.
where's
I
the
think
tribe?
that's Hypsisawa, again in the heath family, ericaceous perennial.
What's the thing that it has something like that that's lower, and people used to pick it for Christmas time with little berries on it. I can't remember.
Winterberry? Or
No, red. They were red.
red berry.
No. That they're
Wintergreen.
wintergreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, wintergreen.
Look at that. If you all see, you see that flat mound up there?
Yeah.
Little hill and a very flat mound. That was the last, the last energy craze here in this region. Yeah, about 100 years ago, a little more than 100 years ago. Pre-fossil fuels. Well, pre-oil, at least, pre-liquid petroleum. Tens of thousands of them all over this region, I imagine. And that was the primary energy source, again, a little more than a century ago. Anyone know what was going on up there?
Like coal? Charcoal.
Charcoal, yeah.
Oh, charcoal.
So if you imagine, this whole place was, none of these trees were standing 130 years ago, right?
Cut them off.
And most of the trees were, about this size. that were around. So they were cutting trees this size because they had to be able to move them either by hand or by horse. And they have to be able to stack them, right? So you're not stacking massive trees, you're stacking pole size and larger trees, burning them and then smothering the burn so it doesn't burn them all the way to ash. So you end up with charcoal, all that down the mountain, and that, the railroads run on that, and the iron smelters, and that was the source of,
So
that
they
was
left
the
all
source
the
of
big
energy.
trees?
What's that?
And they left all the big
Well,
trees?
no,
then?
there weren't really big trees
No.
here because this
You
was
know-
all cleared. This, if you can imagine, 150 years ago was all pasture. Stone walls. This was sheep pasture, mostly.
Flat areas where they burnt?
Yeah,
burn
because
the
you couldn't
charcoal?
stack. You try to stack trees here,
just-
the whole thing would roll down. So
stack
they
trees.
made that. They made these flats. That's called a charcoal flat. And that they construct. Here's another one right there. See this? If you want to get a good look at a charcoal flat, here's right. And if you dug here, you'd find charcoal. Charcoal.
What were you showing us, sorry?
Charcoal.
I was trying to find some charcoal. Right? And it's kind of neat to think about charcoal as we reach the end of the petroleum age, and we're trying to hasten the end of petroleum age. We bought our first electric car last year, and I hope never to buy a gas car again. And there's many things going on in the Connecticut state and obviously nationally that have to do with shifting out of a petroleum economy. Think about where your investments are, et cetera, et cetera. But it's interesting to think about, about the remnants of the last energy revolution here and what will be the remnants of the petroleum age once we hurry our way out of it. You can see no big pieces, but just very, very dark soil.
Picture this, I think I could.
The one I have, called iMac.